Choyo sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda pelge drolor tsampe tseparche pande alame shabla solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Utta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timunisha Utta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Utta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Utta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Techen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dudun Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Chingelo Soni Sodan Dikdun Shapetse Dungi Namke Yinsu Lekshune Lapchen Soni Yonsu Tsopadan Cherani Dun Chanra Chingelo Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen de la Drubra Chingelo Dagelo Na Chola Chokpadan Chemin Samjur Ngemba Shiwadan Chodan Tumbe Dudun Malupa Beme Lungi Drubra Chingelo Dorna Tingne Tseraba Tamchedan Techi Pardune Kaba Tamchetu Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukche Chingi Dala Siksu Sol Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Jetsun Lame Tuje Rabgongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Tobrasho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Cheki Pela Long Sadan Lamge Yunten Rabzone Dorje Change Kopa Nyur Tob Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tukdan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tukdan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sashipuki Choshimeto Tamare Rabba ni de gempa di sange shintu mikte ulwarki drokunu namda shingla che opar shoyidama guru radna mindrala kam niryata yami Sangye chedan tsoge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dage chinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan tsoge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dage chinso gibe sonam ki Pinchira sangye drupara sho sangye chudan tsoge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupara sho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Namo yal haye ke dan ludan nue jin ke drubundan da mi ke nam dan druwa kunge janam chitsam pa tamche ke to dagi cheten to tamche ke to dagi cheten to. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
C'è una situazione.
There is a situation which I think kind of happened to all of you. We are home. We move from one side to the other to do something. And when we get to the other side, we forgot why we were moving. Did this ever happen to you? It happened to me, for sure. And then you get there and you wonder, why? What did I have to do? What was I supposed to do? And if we're lucky, we remember what it was, but it happened to me that I ended up doing something else and then recalling the real reason why I moved to that side of the house, or other times where we wonder, why did I come here? And then we just go back. This is not, for sure, maybe not a good sign, but I think this happened to everyone. Sometimes we put energy into something, we walk to a certain direction, and on the way we forget why we decided to undertake that path. Especially if our objective is on a longer term, if it's something a bit challenging to achieve. So on the way, we find distractions and we end somewhere else. We forget the original destination, or we are on the path and we forget the why. I remember one of our friends, Peter, an Englishman who was a monk for some years. Some of you may recall him. When there's the recording of the self-healing practice, the English version was recorded by the BBC version of Pete's voice. So when Pete was by car. He was traveling by car. Once I asked him, "Where did you come from?" He said, "I came from Milano. I set off this morning. Now it's late afternoon. How long did it take?" It took 6 hours. Why? Because I was on the way, then he saw the name of the village, and then he just stopped by to visit it. Because he had this characteristic where he was able to achieve the final destination without any hurry. When he was driving to the UK, he would pick different roads, different ways. But very often when we are on the path, we see something, some distraction, and we get lost. As humanity, as living beings, we have a quite clear and common objective, which is a lifelong objective, something which belongs to our life. Sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we aren't so much aware of it. But what we want, after all, it is to feel good, to be happy and not to suffer. Sorry to put it so simply, such in a direct way, but the rest doesn't really count, doesn't really matter. What we want, after all, is to feel good. As humanity, over time, over millennia, we try to understand what we need to do to feel good. The question isn't, do I want to be happy, do I want to suffer or not? We already know the answer. I've never seen anybody willing to suffer or not willing to be happy. Sometimes people try to get out of suffering using pain. We are strange, we are peculiar, we do strange things, but I've never really heard of someone who was really willing to suffer. So the main question is how? This is an introduction to another topic. We could say that over millennia, there have been two main ways started off. From medicine to science, all economy, all the various disciplines we developed were based on this need. What to do to feel good and not to suffer. Everything starts from there. Sepa is a Tibetan word which is translated as Brahma, this strong wish, strength aimed at not suffering. Willing to feel good and willing not to suffer are two sides of the same coin. So the main question is how? What can sustain a well-being status and what seems to be helping but doesn't work on the other side? What we know, we have constantly searched. First of all, taking care of our survival. If we cannot survive, this becomes the main issue. Buddhism speaks about the four main needs of the being. First one is the material need. If I don't have food, if I can't live in a safe place, if I can't protect myself from heat or cold, which do you think the priority will be? Of course, survival. who doesn't have food can't be offered teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa, the three aspects of the path, talking about path and so on, the person will answer, okay, peace is fine, but food comes first. Then we can talk about peace. So in history, throughout history, priority has been survival for a long time. Second need that we have as human beings is the need of love, affection, to be seen and to see others, to exchange. Know that the main part of our actions rotate about this topic. Talking to my mother, who is a psychologist and was treating several patients at the end of their life, I asked her, what is the main problem being next to a person who is facing death? The first, so for these people, is not only death the main issue, but the human relations that need to be solved. A son we don't talk to and so on. So this is the second need. We need to be loved, we need to love, we need to trust and be trusted, to have a safe exchange with other people. Give, receive and give love. Then the need to be safe, to feel safe. I have material things, I'm loved, but if I live somewhere where my life is at risk, in a war zone or so on, I won't be able to feel good. And then the fourth need is the need to give meaning to life, which is a spiritual need. Being able to see life beyond itself. We have projected a great deal of our existence trying to find a solution through the first point only. I'd like to imagine them as 4 tanks. When the first one is filled up, flows over, but doesn't enter the second bin, the second tank. If we think of our life, the first container, the first bin of material needs, do you think it is full or not? I believe it's overfull. But even having too much, even overflowing, keeps burning energy. We keep on filling it up over and over and dedicating our life to filling up that bin which is already full but doesn't overflow in the second one, in the need of being loved and love. It's like, for example, in a couple, a person says, you don't spend time with me, you don't give attention to me, and the other person replies, I give you everything, I work a lot to give you life, and you still complain. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy to receive the material side, but this doesn't cover a second need. We need affection, we need love, on a chemical perspective as well. Love brings oxytocin. Over time, we have projected the first need to have materially, and the second one to be loved, mainly outside of ourselves. So in the search of this state of well-being, happiness, there's a fork with two directions. One road where we say, I will be happy when the world around myself will be as it should be. So I will be happy when materially I will have this and that. And when this situation will be different, and when that person will behave in that way, and so on. So the first branch of the road is where our feeling good depends on external factors. So we dedicate our life towards fixing, organizing, manipulating reality that is surrounding us. Yeah? So we'll try to have more money, change our house, city, buying this, that, eating this, having that person, making sure a person doesn't behave in a specific way, trying to control the situation, having this inner fairy tale of hoping that believing that the day that this will be this way, that will be the other way, everything will be fine. Try for a second to observe yourself and asking, do I have this inner fairy tale? In my case, someone will answer, in my case, I'm not so much, but if that person would stop doing that thing, another one would say, I'm not asking so much, I just want to retire. Everything else is fine. However, in the first fairy tale we believe in, there are three tricky rules which we know of, but we ignore them. We are strange beings. There are things we know, but we pretend not to know them. The first rule is, the more I have, the more I want. So, when I say, I will be happy when I will achieve this, when I get it, then I will want more, so it's never enough. The more I have, the more I want. If you want to add up, the more I have, the more I have, the more I want, and the less I have. Because having is measured on a comparison basis. So if I want more, whatever I have will be little, will be few. If I don't want much, whatever I have will be a lot. So the idea is, I will be happy when I will have this and that, is a tricky thing. Second rule, when a problem ends, another one arises. There are exceptions where when a problem starts, another one doesn't arise, and then we just create it. An example. This is an example. When I was in India in 95 or 6, I'm not so specific about dates. I can't remember years and dates. We were together with Lama Michel Rinpoche. We were traveling from Mundot, where the Ganden Trepung monastery are located, and we were traveling to Bangalore. And our bus tried to overtake a huge truck, but the width of the carriage was the double side of the truck itself. It was nighttime, it was a small road, and when the bus started to overtake and noticed that another truck was coming, so there was an accident where Lama Ganchen was sitting on the front, was badly hurt. Cozy, his secretary, broke her arm. I was sitting on the first seat and I crashed on a window, which didn't break up, luckily. But after all, it didn't end up so badly. But there are two stories within this story. First of all, I saw Lama Ganchen, who was really badly hurt. Before going to the hospital, he checked on every single person who was on the bus, making sure everyone would be fine. The day after, with a very swollen face, he went to see the Congress where he was invited, struggling to speak, still in a good mood. This was a huge example. Then, first of all, I was one of the last ones to leave the bus. When I got off the bus, there was a smell of gasoline. I said, it's a bit dangerous, and I invited everyone sitting on the bus to leave it, as it could have been dangerous, but I couldn't find my bag. I'm sorry. Some people replied, I can't find my bag, and didn't want to leave the bus. So I noticed they would struggle to leave the bus because they couldn't find the bag. So when we got off the bus, I looked up and I saw one of the most beautiful starry skies I've ever seen. Maybe because of the heat I got, but the sky was really wonderful. And I felt extremely joyful. And I tried to tell the other people, please look at the sky, how beautiful it is. And everyone was looking at me like if I was a fool. But what I tried to say, look, we are waiting for help. We can't do anything else. So in the meantime, why not enjoying a beautiful sky? One thing is one thing, another thing is another thing. Looking at the beauty of the sky doesn't take me out of this situation, what we'll need to face to recover. So this was the first thought I had that day. Being able to see beauty even if we are in a difficult moment. After a few hours, help arrived. We arrived at a hotel. I was used to travel with a huge group. We were about 50, 60 people from all over the world. They weren't organized trips with a tour operator. We just reached to our hotel. And until everyone was settled in the room, an hour would pass. This is not good for me. I don't want to share my room with that person. Lots of problems every time we arrived in a hotel. I was already living in India, so we arrived at the hotel. I look at the hotel and I think, this will be a huge problem. Lots of people won't be happy about the hotel. So I will sit in the car, I will wait, and I will just take the room that will be given to me without causing any problem. So 5 minutes after, very early compared to other times, I got to the lobby and everyone was already settled in their rooms without complaints. That day, that hotel didn't have any water. It wasn't a problem of hot water. There was no water at all. There were no single rooms, but no one complained about the hotel, and I found it very strange. Then I thought about it, and I understood that when we have a big problem, small things don't matter anymore. When we get sick, when a person gets sick, does he or she complain about a dress or other details? No. So when everything goes well, goes smoothly, we create problems. Think of your own life. How many real, solid problems do you have? Personally, I don't have any problems of this kind. Is there a list of complaints? Of course. So the rule is, when a problem ends, another one arises. When there is an exception that there is no other problems, we do create them. First rule is, the more I have, the more I want. Second rule, when a problem ends, another one arises. So this illusion, this fairy tale, inner fairy tale where I will be happy when what I want is there, what I don't want isn't there anymore, doesn't exist. And then a third rule is, whatever starts already starts to finish. So the third part of the illusion, that I will be happy when I will be able to maintain things. I want to live with you forever. I want to be here forever. I never want to be separated from this and that. Do you think it's possible? Even when we were small children, we learned that they lived happily together for years and years. I've seen many people willing for things to start forever when things are good and complaining about bad things. I can't live like that forever. Sometimes I reply, don't worry, like this forever, it won't stay. It can be better or it can be worse. So like this, it won't be forever. So, if it will go worse, please enjoy now. If something is not working, relax, it will go better. So like this, nothing will stay. So, this vision where I will be happy when the world around me will be like this and that, we have an idealized image of what we want, this inner fairy tale. This is not working. It's a trick. What I ask myself and what I invite you to ask yourself, how much energy do we invest into making sure this fairy tale becomes truth? As individuals and as society. The definition of economy, which I heard from an economist, learned in the university, is economy is the science to make sure that the infinite wish of man with the ending resources of nature is accomplished. So it's the science to make sure that the fairy tale becomes reality, knowing that it's a fairy tale. So science to satisfy the infinite wish of human beings with the ending resources of nature. This is an attempt to make sure this special objective, this vision of the world, this fairy tale can become true. And this is what I call the materialistic utopia. I think that I will be happy and not suffer mainly through external factors. The second main road is where I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer, and believe that it is possible to avoid suffering and feel good mainly through inner conditions and not external ones. Of course, I need to eat, I need to have my own survival, but what really determines my inner happiness or inner suffering aren't external conditions, but it's all about inner conditions. And Buddhism belongs to this branch of the road at the fork. Within Buddhism, there are many schools, and this is what I called the spiritual utopia. Someone would say achieving a peace state by developing wisdom and peace is a utopia. And I would ask, achieving an inner state of happiness through avoiding what I don't want and achieving what I want, isn't this a utopia as well? Maybe worse. So, it is essential for us to ask ourselves, what do I want? Where do I project what I want? Buddhism starts from a basic principle where our happiness and suffering doesn't depend on external conditions, but on how we live reality. And there's another essential principle. We all are moldable people. We are always transforming, and transformation depends on interactions we have. So, in the first vision of materialistic utopia, we see our own inner state, our emotions, feelings, and so on, as a result of external conditions. I feel happy because something happened, I'm sad because there's a person, and so on. Yeah? In this first materialistic utopia, we project happiness on three aspects: material goods, sensorial pleasures, and image. Who am I? How do other people see me? Yeah? And when we are in the second branch, the vision of spiritual utopia, we observe that happiness and suffering depend on an inner situation and not external. To better understand this, we can understand that no one, absolutely no one, has the ability to live, perceive, experiment anything independently from ourselves. This is an example which I use many times with sight or sound. But can you see me? If I ask you, can you see me? Do you see Lama Michel? I see you. If you ask the person next to you, the person will say, yes, I see Lama. But when we ask the other person, do you see Lama? The question is, do you see the Lama, or after all, do you see the Lama I see? Can you hear the sound of bow? Which sound of which bow? This one. The one I'm hearing. Are you hearing what I hear? Are you seeing the person I'm seeing? This is the real question when you ask the other person. Without going too much into philosophy, the answer would be, How many Lama Michel are there here? One. If you say Lama Michel, if you ask, do you see Lama Michel, there's just one. This is not so complicated. But if we enter into philosophy, analysis, our experience of seeing and hearing anything is based on 4 parts, which is a 3+1. The first 3 are called contact aspects, rekpa in Tibetan, which is the sum of sensorial object, light, comes, touches the object and returns to your eyes. The light in this case touches myself and comes back to you. Or vibration in the air, which is sound. Then sensorial power, which is the sight, the eyes. Or hearing. Sensorial awareness, which is the part of our brain which registers all the input that arrived and creates a bridge between conscious mind and sensorial power. When we are under anesthesia, sedation break the bridge between these 2 points. So even if there is a cut, we can't perceive the feeling of pain. This is called contact. Light comes to my eyes. I see a form, colors, and on these 3 points called contact, there's an additional one which is called discernment, and is where we kind of do an inner research on our database based on our experiences, knowledge, and so on. And we ask ourselves, what is it that I'm seeing? And doing a research in our database, we attribute a meaning to whatever we see. In this case, is a person, is Lama Michel, and so on. So we hear the sound, my sensorial power perceived the vibration, sensorial power, sensorial conscience, and then discernment attributes the meaning. The object, whatever comes to your eyes, light that comes to your eyes, do you think is the same or is similar from one person to the other one? It's not the same exactly. You are in different positions, different distance, different corners. So light isn't the same. So the sensorial object is different. Your power, so the sight, do you think is the same or if I take out my glasses, for sure my ability will be different. Then the sensorial conscience, the awareness, is it the same? The value that we attribute, what about this? Of course, no. So, object, power, conscience, and discernment is the value we put. They are all different. So, do you think we are having the same experience? Do you see what I see? No, and there's no way to see the same thing. The only way is to be the same identical person. There's no other alternative. The same is when we hear sound. You hear this sound of the singing bowl, but do you hear exactly what I hear? As I don't hear exactly what you hear. So, where does it get even more complicated? Together with this, when there's discernment, that isn't only a technical thing. There are emotions, memories, projections involved. And we are unable to leave anything independently from ourselves. So if I wear red glasses, I will see a red reality. Same if I wear anger glasses or happiness glasses, fear glasses, and so on. I will see reality through these lenses. I noticed, not only following the teachings but also observing, is that when we have an inner wound, when we have unresolved traumas or some strong aspects of our personality, no matter where or who we are with, we will see reality through that filter. So it doesn't matter if I'm in a beautiful, wonderful situation, I'm surrounded by wonderful people, I have everything I need. I will live and experience reality through this filter. At the base, we have three feelings: attraction, aversion, and neutrality. Attraction, aversion, and neutrality aren't anything negative or positive by themselves. Does a Buddha have aversion or attraction? I think so. Because if a Buddha has love, means having attraction for the happiness of the other person. I love you and I'm attracted by your happiness. I have compassion for you and I have aversion for your suffering. So having aversion or attraction isn't a problem by itself. The problem is when we project the object of attraction into something which cannot sustain it, and project the causes of suffering, aversion, towards something which cannot eliminate suffering. Is it okay so far? Is it clear? So we'll briefly detour. A few days ago I was in Milan. I was nearby Kumpen Lama and there is a parking lot. While I was getting out of the parking, someone was working on the stairs which were blocked. When you try to go through the electric stairs, but you try to step on them, it feels like the foot is stuck on that. It's like on the first step something is pulling backwards. After a while you realize they're not moving and you have to climb the stairs, the electric stairs yourself. I thought it's the height of the steps. No. It's said that one of the main functions of our brain, among the two main functions of our brain, is to manage our energy, to be able to see where you need to send energy and manage the energy flowing through the body. And the second main function of the brain is to foresee the future. We constantly foresee the future, trying to predict what will happen. So if I see the electric stairs, I will step on them expecting them to go automatically upwards. The first time you stepped on them, I remember my first experience. I was in Brazil, my uncle would hold my hand. I remember the scene at the time. The first time you step on them is a bit strange. Then, over time, it becomes more natural because our mind constantly foresees what will happen. So when we foresee something and it doesn't happen, we are a bit unstabilized. But this doesn't apply only to material things. But we tend to foresee things in a more elaborated way. When we go to a restaurant and we check the menu, and depending on the memory we have of that specific dish or the last time we went to that specific place, will we project what we will be eating? We project the future starting from our own experience of the past. An extreme example is our friend Teresa Turricchia. I take the advantage to dedicate to her. She lived here for many years. At the beginning of self-healing, when there is this melody, she adapted the melody and the mantra. Someone will recall the beginning of the Italian TV. There was an harp playing. She was playing that instrument live on TV. So Teresa lived in the center in Milan. Then she moved here. She had a house here, but she was spending all the time at the center. She was a very unique person. Wonderful for some things and very difficult for others. Why was I talking about Teresa? Teresa, one day, someone took her to Bologna in the center where she had a house. She had many special qualities, but she managed things in a daily way, in a very special way. So someone took her to Bologna in the city center to sell her house and hopefully buy one in Albagnano. Then they get to the bathroom in this small house in Bologna, and she says, we cannot enter the bathroom because there's a broken bottle of shampoo and we can't get in. When did this happen? About 20 years ago. This is a bit tragic comedy. It's like saying with that air flight company, we can't travel because 20 years ago its flights were delayed. Very often the past is doomed to be repeated in the same way when things have changed. But no one has the ability to leave the present or project the future free from the past. One of the things we do is to constantly try to project whatever will happen, how it will be, and so on. When things go as foreseen, everything is going well, even because we try to achieve stability and safe, making sure the reality we see corresponds to our provisions. But the probabilities that everything will correspond to our predictions is equal to 0. And we are not sure that whatever we predicted will happen. We expect instead that whatever we foresee, we predict, becomes reality. So whenever something happens which we were not expecting, we suffer less when we try to embrace it, to understand it. I often hear the question, why? Asking why doesn't really change the situation. But it is because when we ask why, we are trying to fit it in our prediction, and we try to find a comfort zone, because in front of uncertainty, not understanding how things work and happen, we feel unsafe and secure. Usually, we suffer more because things aren't as they should be, rather than because things are as they are. So one of the main aversions and so on is not about people, situation, objects, even though they exist. Anger objects can be beings, animals, or people, can be situations, physical objects, or behaviors which belong to the first category. We can even get angry at not living object. Like walking, we hit our pinky finger in the corner of the bed and then we kick the bed. There's something wrong in this. Like if the fault was of the bed. Among several anger objects, aversion objects which become anger, the biggest one is the reality not corresponding to whatever we think it should be. Reality, I mean how the other behaves, how the situation unfolds, my expectation on this and that should be. In relationships, I put the other person in a box. I have the mother, father, guru, friend, son box, and within the box I put you with so much love, you have to belong to it, to correspond to it. You are my father, and a father should be like that, shouldn't be like that. You are the uncle, the friend, the mother, the husband. So beyond projecting my own idealized image, I even add a label I put you in, and when you do not match to it, it's your fault. Then I suffer and try to change things. Because we tend, when we are not well, when we suffer, we try to ask, why do I suffer? And we try to eliminate the causes of our suffering. This is a natural dynamic. It's a healthy one. I suffer, I try to understand why I suffer. I try to find the reason of our suffering in order to eliminate the cause of suffering. Yeah? I have a headache. Do I try to eliminate the headache or the cause of the headache? Usually, we try to eliminate the headache. One of the biggest mistakes is to direct aversion towards the symptom and not towards the illness, not towards the real problem. And the more I try to eliminate the symptom, if the illness goes on, the symptom will come back. The other person is, this is an example, talking to a Tibetan doctor. He said, in allopathic medicine, there are wonderful and very effective methods. One of the problems he saw is that it tends, in emergency it works really well, but in other cases, if there is a special pathology, it's used a very strong cure for that pathology, which creates unbalance on other sides of the health. In Tibetan medicine, I can use a very strong and effective medicine, but it will create lots of side effects on other health, aspects of the health. So in Tibetan medicine, when there's a remedy which is against a certain problem, 1/3 at least, 2/3 at least of the medicine are used to cure that specific illness, but the remaining composition is used to create balancing the rest of the body. As opposite, we tend to eliminate what we think is the cause of our suffering, creating more imbalance. To help you better understand, when we said there are two main visions, the first one where the world, we find happiness mainly changing the world, and the second branch of the road where I need to change how I relate with reality without having to try change only the outer reality. So happiness and suffering in the second example, in the second branch of the road, depend on inner conditions mainly. So here, which are the inner conditions which increase suffering and increase well-being? We could refer to Buddha's teachings, other religions as well. But before entering that, there is another thermometer, which is a very direct one to understand this, which is our own body. When we feel sincere love, do we physically feel good or not? When we feel affections, love, oxytocin increases and the taste, the palate, becomes sweeter, better. Nonna's pasta is better. When we say Nonna's pasta is better, which is the magical ingredient, is love, and it is true. Scientific research proved that when we eat while having a genuine love feeling, oxytocin increases and improves our palate, our sense of taste, so that we can enjoy taste more. There is an interesting research where a person walking in the mountain with a heavy rucksack, if going alone or going with some friends, someone this person is very much related to, good company. So when walking with a heavy weight in good company, it burns less energy and does less effort. So it is true that walking in good company is better. It's not placebo. Physically, something happens. Emotions are directly related to the body, and vice versa. So feeling affection and love is physically helpful. When we get angry, we feel hate. Do we remain relaxed? Ah, so beautiful, I'm so angry. The heart is okay with the anger, blood pressure is stabilized. Anger, what does it do? With anger, blood pressure increases, cortisol increases, physically there is a lot of tension. A long-term anger brings to sickness. Instead, a long-term love is a source of illness. Jealousy brings illness. Gratitude brings well-being. So there is no need to enter into much philosophical or moralistic discourses. Just observe our own body. It has a wonderful system of alarming which can detect something which is beneficial and something which is not. When we feel good, we are doing something which is benefiting ourselves. So it is important to be able to listen what the body says. A few years ago, around 2018, I got very angry. I was in a situation where I was threatened, blackmailed, and in this situation I do the opposite. If I feel blackmailed or threatened, I do the opposite. If someone says, look, I'm getting angry, okay, get angry. Lama, if you do this, I will do something else. Okay, do it, be my guest. So I was in this situation, threatened and blackmailed, and there I got really angry. I raised my voice, I got very close to the other person, I altered myself, and then I calmed down. Maybe it lasted half a minute. I recall the first movie of The Lord of the Rings. In the beginning, Bilbo Gandalf is facing Gandalf that is growing huge in front of him and then calms down. I got angry like that, which is something not common for myself. It lasted maybe half a minute or a minute. Then I calmed down and I went for a walk. I had a huge pain in my stomach, tension. My body was saying, you did something very stupid. And there I asked myself, will I guarantee myself this will never happen again? No. Even because that situation wasn't finished, so I had to go back to that situation and probably leave it again. But I didn't want to go back to that feeling. I didn't want to repeat that inner state. How I leave a certain situation depends on myself. How you behave is your problem. How I behave is my problem. And there I took up a commitment of never again. If a minute of anger hurts me so much, imagine staying in that situation for such long time. Maybe we won't notice that anymore, but it will corrode us innerly. When we get so angry, we lose control on ourselves. We end up saying things we would normally not say, or doing things we would normally not do. A person sometimes took years to build up friendship or trust, and in 1 minute just throws it away. Then this person can apologize to us, please forgive me, and so on. We forgive this person, but still we hold a hurt. Then it happens again. When someone is angry, even if it isn't towards ourselves, being near the person, next to the person, isn't pleasant. I learned swear words in Italian from the ex-husband of my mother, who passed away a few years ago. And in the traffic in São Paulo, he wasn't patient at all. And while driving, he would say horrible things, even swear words. And there I learned them. It was like a school for me. At a certain point, it really started to upset me. And I started to ask him to repeat these swear words to me so that I could learn them. And he said, no, you shouldn't learn them. So then he stopped. Then I started to write them down. And he said, why do you write them down? And I did a sheet of paper with a list of swear words and bad words. And I promised to send it via fax to his office, saying, okay, but it's not for you. So bringing awareness to this situation, he changed. And he reduced the amount of swear words he used. So one day, my mother was studying hormonal aspects. I learned that testosterone cycle has a very short duration, around 13 minutes. And while we were driving in São Paulo, often we get stopped over an hour in the traffic. Then he would start off with for a few minutes. He would set off with swear words, and my mother was indicating that the testosterone cycle was about to start. When he got to the beginning of the peak of testosterone, he would explode with swear words and bad words. When we are near someone who gets angry, it really hurts. If I'm angry, even if I'm not against you, I will hurt you. It's difficult, it's challenging to be near someone who is angry. And who suffers the most is the person himself, because anger isn't beneficial. The first tendency in anger is to become a victim. Imagine we are walking on the road with a dog. On the lead. Someone starts to poke the dog. Then runs away and comes back. The dog runs away, does damages around, and then comes back. When he comes back, we will say, poor dog. I know what you did is wrong. But if that person didn't poke you and annoy you, you wouldn't have got angry. I'm sorry you had to react that way. To face our own anger the key is to stop justifying it. As we are taken by habits, at a certain point we lose patience, we react in a bad way. But when this moment ends, as everything ends, The first thing we need to learn is to welcome ourselves and say and admit we have reacted in a negative way based on the habits we have and that we do not want to repeat it again without entering in the dynamics of justifying and feeling the victim. When we get angry, we feel we're always right. Have you ever seen an angry person who doesn't believe to be right? It doesn't make sense to talk about anger to an angry person. It happened to me, and going to an angry person and say, calm down, you just become the object of anger and it doesn't work. At the same way, it doesn't work meditating on patience when we are angry. When the dog quit the lead, we just need to wait for the dog to come back. And there are techniques to help the dog to come back. Breathing in a certain way and calm down in a certain way at the moment. But the main point is to understand that aversion is one thing and anger is another thing. Losing control of ourselves, reacting in an aggressive way, mental, verbal, or physical way. The feature of anger is to be willing to destroy, to eliminate something. All these hurts. When someone gets angry, is like when a person gets angry, sometimes I feel he's holding a huge sign saying, look how ignorant I am. Because with anger, I don't diminish my suffering, I just increase it. Here there's a misunderstanding of Buddhism. Not getting angry means maintaining a passive attitude. This is not the point. And I'm explaining further. When I see a situation or a behavior that I don't like, one of the main questions I need to pose, what is the cause? Where does this come from? What can I do to help solving the situation? Sometimes the best way to change that situation is to put a limit. Sometimes instead it's better to be patient and wait for it to finish and work on it afterwards to make sure it doesn't repeat itself again. I found myself in situations very tense where keeping calm would just make it worse. So I needed to have a firm attitude and get out of my comfort zone, having an attitude more firm, which takes me out of my comfort zone. And sometimes I really had to raise my voice and stop the situation and put an end to it without getting angry. So this is also possible, but the question is, what can I do to face and solve the situation at best? This is very important. Another important aspect is if someone hits me with a stick, I don't like to be beaten up. I have aversion because I'm suffering. If I like to be beaten up or getting a massage, I would say thank you, go on. Instead, if I don't like to be beaten up, what happens is that aversion arises. A few days ago, I reflected upon this. In general, I try to help and not to hurt any insect, any being. But at that point, here at the center, doesn't happen, but next to the river in the forest, it's full of annoying insects. I was sitting there, and then there was a fly biting, and then another one, and then I started to develop aversion. When you see the fly, you don't say, "Fly, please get out." You just try to send it away. And if you allow it to come closer, you will find all the different techniques to kill them. There are different traps and systems to kill the flies. And it's very simple, very easy to pass from respecting the fly to wanting to kill it. And the difference is when I get hurt by it. So we need to be able to control ourselves, to direct ourselves. So if someone is beating me up, I don't want to be beaten up. So naturally I will develop aversion because I'm suffering. What would be the anger object? The stick? What is beating is the stick. Why isn't the stick then? Because it's not the primary cause of it. It's just a tool used to beat. Is it the arm? The tendency we have is to point the finger at the person. This is not even the main cause. The main cause is the ignorance of the person, the hate, the selfishness, the envy of the person. This is the main primary cause that generated whatever made me suffer. So if I don't want to live that situation again, I can stop the stick, of course, but the real object of aversion isn't the hand, the arm, or the person. Is ignorance, selfishness, anger, hate, envy, anything which has moved the person to act in that way. Is it clear? When we see violence, for example, I've never seen anybody acting with violence which is happy, joyful, satisfied, at peace. These kind of people, do you think they act with violence? Never. Violence is always a symptom of an inner state of suffering. Not even so profound. I can be violent towards a fly because it hurts me. So, one of the keys to direct our anger without entering a passive state is to understand what is the main cause of suffering. And now one of the main tools is moving from judging the person to judging values, principles, and so on. I'm against racism. I can use all my strength and opposition against violence, aggressiveness, racism. So I want to stop a certain behavior, but from there to be willing to hurt the person, this is another story. But when we feel anger, we usually direct it towards a person. And when we have this kind of feeling, we even forget why we got angry. We just want to hurt the other person. There's a pain which accumulated over time, and this hurts us. So first step is to be aware. Ideally, we should get to a point where we feel it doesn't matter whatever happens. This is not a valid reason to get angry. There are different types of anger. anger based on a wish to hurt the other person, as I recognize the other as cause of suffering, of my own suffering. So I want to hurt you, and I feel pleasure in seeing you suffering. Someone would say no. Unfortunately, yes. Ever happened that someone was nasty and then faced some difficulty, falls down, something goes wrong, and within we think, yeah, you kind of deserved it? Have you ever been joyful for the suffering of the other person? This is awful, but it happens. And this is what I meant, wishing for the other person to suffer. Once a person argued with me. We were debating about a certain topic with different points of view. The discussion became very hot, very stubborn. I wouldn't change my idea because you have to convince me. Once you convince me, I'm open to change my opinion, but I need to agree. So at a certain point, the other person said things which didn't have anything to do with the object of debate, of discussion, trying to find weak points in me to hurt me. So after a while, I confronted the person and I said, I feel very sorry, not because we had an animated confrontation about that, but because you rather try to find things with the sole objective to hurt me. And the person said yes, and this is the meaning of arguing. Thank you for teaching me that. It's awful, extremely awful. This is one of the many types of anger, where I recognize something in you which is the cause of my own suffering, and I want to hurt you for that. I will search, seek words, ways to stop you and to hurt you. There's another type of anger based on arrogance. There's an example of a situation which kind of embodies this description. 3 people were joyfully eating white soft bread with some sort of cream. Another person who is obsessed with organic food and so on, and just scolded them because they were eating that type of bread which is hurting in his or her opinion. This is going to hurt you and so on. And in this way was this person aggressive and talking in a very strong way. This person really wanted them to be well. But there is a manifestation of anger which arises when the other person isn't as it should be or behaves in a different way. And I'm the holder of truth. Is it clear? And this also manifests in anger. This is very difficult to be recognized because after all, we don't want something bad for the other person, but we hurt because when we scold the other person for doing something which is wrong in our opinion and we are aggressive, of course we won't be of any help. The other persons would continue to eat this kind of bread with holding something on the stomach, and I will try to hide in the future. So this kind of behavior doesn't help. This is the second type of anger. The third type of anger is a nervous type. Some people, when they are hungry, it's better not to talk to them. My father was like that years ago. My mother was used to bring some dried fruit or something, and when she started to see something, some strange behavior, she would just feed him with some snacks. Some people, when they are hungry, they start becoming nervous, very reactive. When they are very tired, become more reactive. Other people are subject to hormones and become more nervous. So there is a physical state which leads to a higher sensitivity, which isn't a good one, which isn't the ability to perceive things, but to become hypersensitive to regular things which in that situation can't be tolerated. So this is a third type of anger, overreacting and getting angry, not to be willing to harm the other person, and not because they have an aggressive reaction, but just because they are very nervous, hungry, under hormonal stress, or something else. Some people wake up in the morning and it's better not to talk to them because they don't sleep well, they wake up in a bad mood. These are different types. And it's important to look at ourselves and understand what kind of anger we are holding. Maybe we have the three of them. Maybe we have a bit more of one type. But if we try to organize them into categories, then we'll be able to say, today don't come so close, today I don't feel so good, today I don't feel very good. So when we develop awareness on this, something changes. I have a friend in Brazil, she's a lawyer. She was working in a big firm, lots of work. And she says that there were some days in her hormonal cycle where she would just get more angry and get out of the limits. Her boss, who is Japanese and would be very silent, in those days he would leave a chocolate on her desk. When she saw the chocolate, she realized that she was overreacting. She was going over the top. And the awareness would help her not to overreact as she was used to do. If her boss would have treated her in an aggressive way, the things would have escalated. But with love, he found a way to let her develop awareness when she was going over the top. And this helped her to find balance again. So awareness is essential to help us. And in this is stopping to feeling the victim. We can have hormonal problems, we can feel tired. It can happen that I live something very difficult, very traumatic. I have a problem. This generates hypersensitivity. Someone would ask me a regular question and I would just overreact. Because there is an inner sensitivity. So it is important for us to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and understand what is going on innerly. Today I'm a bit nervous. Today I'm very nervous. I recognize it. I try to understand where it comes from. It can be a physical aspect. Body and mind are completely connected. anything that happens in the mind has a counterpart in the body, and vice versa. Like Stefano, the former husband of my mother, would get angry in the car following the testosterone cycle. When we have an inner feeling, instead of feeling that something is going on, we say, why do I feel this? And we tend to project it outside. When we feel joy, do we enjoy the moment, or we try to understand why we feel joy? And we say, thanks to this, I feel good, and so on. When we feel bad, do we welcome our negative feeling, or do we seek the why? And the guilty person will be surely around us. This is the normal way. When I really thought about this is when I was in India, going to the airport from the south of India to Nepal, and I had to step over in Calcutta, where the temperature is extremely hot. The sky is blue, and you feel the sound of rain. And then it's the sound of the wheels driving on the melted cement, on the melted pavement. This is the level of heat that goes on in Calcutta. So in this huge heat, I had to change from the domestic to the international terminal. So I had to get out with a cart in the parking lot. I didn't have much time, so I was in a hurry. I didn't know where I was supposed to go, and I had a huge amount of luggage with a cart that wasn't going very well. So I had to pull it and push it. It wasn't one of the best pleasant moments I had. At that moment, I had a huge amount of joy. I was under the burning sun. The cart wasn't moving forward. I was in a hurry, concerned to lose my flight, and I was super happy. And it was very special because I wasn't able to attribute the cause of that happiness to anything. And then I understood this mechanism of always finding the cause of our feelings. I was looking for the cause. I didn't like the heat. I didn't like to be late. I didn't like to be able to have to lift my own luggage, feeling tired because of the long trip and so on. I didn't have a clear reason which I could attribute to my own happiness. And there I understood that when we feel something inside, we tend to find the reason outside. Instead, in reality, it's the opposite very often. I see something outside because I need to understand what I'm feeling inside. And what I feel is a mix of a physical, emotional state. It's a huge, complex thing. So one of the main mistakes we should recognize is when we feel a nervous or unwell feeling and we try to point our finger to understand where the guilty person is or guilty attitude, and when we have identified it, we go against it. And then the tension has gone, but the damages I have created are still there, and I will have to face them later on. So what do we do to face anger? First of all, awareness of how it hurts us. Reflect, see, until we at least we get to the point where we say, it doesn't matter what happens, this is not a valid reason to get angry. Try to judge the situation, the situations, the behaviors, and not the people, so that I can act to change the situation, but not the person. Being aware of the types of anger I'm feeling. When I'm aware, of course, I can change the way I react. And I can abandon the position of being the victim. Victim means I'm not well and this is your fault. When I get out of this position of feeling the victim, I'm less reactive towards the other person. But there's an important point. When anger comes, it just comes. Once I was teaching in Brazil the 6th chapter of the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, which talks about patience. Someone a bit angry said, "Hey Lama, look, I've been listening to this since 20 years and they don't work. I understood I don't need to get angry, but when anger comes, it comes." And he was very angry. At that moment, I said, "Why doesn't it work? Understanding is not enough. We need to apply this teaching." And here, the 3 difficulties apply. 3 passages. First, awareness. I see anger coming. I recognize it, and I cannot stop it. I say things, I do things, I'm taken over by anger. But I'm aware that, and I see the mechanism. So awareness helps me to anticipate. Yeah? It is challenging. Some people come to me and say, it was better when I was not aware of it. Before I was angry, I thought I was right, and now I get angry. I recognize I'm getting angry, and I'm sad that I got angry. And after getting angry, I get angry with myself because I got angry. Whoever is in this phase is in the first level. Be aware. The more we go forward in this point, the more we can perceive the smell, the stink of anger, before it actually manifests fully, so that we can see the dynamics when it's starting and we can learn to stop it. At the beginning, we see anger when it's already there, fully swinging. So the first level is awareness. Second difficulty, second level is I see anger arising. I don't block it. Trying to block anger doesn't work. When you try to stop anger, submit it, at the end you're just carried away by it. So I see anger rising, I don't block it, but I don't follow it. So I try to generate neutrality towards anger. I recognize that when anger comes, I recognize that is nothing else than an emotional memory. I'm used to react like that. And this is something I don't need to be. So I kind of detach from myself. It's like a big tree in the middle of a store. We are like a tree with deep roots. The strong wind howls. The tree feels the wind, flex, and let the wind pass. If the tree tried to block the wind, it would break. If it's carried away by the wind, loses all the winds. But the tree needs to be flexible to let the wind pass. The same way I feel anger coming, I recognize it, I see that it's an emotional memory, a habit which I don't want to hold anymore, and I create a kind of detachment from myself and I let it go. So I won't materialize anger on 3 levels. First, second, and third level, consecutive. The first one is where I don't react physically. There's anger, I see it, it comes, and I remember that it will pass. I create some detachment. I find a safe space for my mind. I can use a mantra, a good memory, and wait for it to go. First level is not reacting physically. So I won't take decisions. I won't react physically, taken over by anger. Second level, physically and verbally. Instead, I just bite my tongue. Third level, I won't react physically, verbally, or mentally. I feel anger. I am aware that it will go away. I wait and I won't even enter into dialogue with it. I'm aware I shouldn't get angry, but look at how the person behaved, blah, 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 and so on. So we enter a dialogue. Every time we materialize anger through a physical, verbal, or mental attitude, we will just nurture this habit. We will make it stronger. Every time it comes, and we can detach it and wait for that anger wave to come and go, then it will leave weaker than it arrived, because we will weaken that habit. Anger is a habit. And to change a habit, there are just 2 ways. Don't do it anymore, and do the opposite. So we need to diminish it. When it comes, we let it go. The third difficulty is to give continuity to the second one. Because the tendency in the beginning is, I'm aware, I see the anger, I don't react, I don't block it, I don't follow it, it's going, I relax, and boom, I'm taking over again. So I manage not to react, and so on, but as soon as I release my attention, I notice I've already reacted. When this happened, it doesn't mean I haven't been successful. It means I'm still stuck at the second level and I need to get to the third level. If I can manage to keep it for a while, until the point where we see this feeling coming, and as it comes, it goes. Because everything will pass. Like the story of the ring. Some of you may recall. It's a Middle Orient story. There was a king. In his wars and conquers, he conquered a village and decided to kill everyone. He would take slaves, and the rest was supposed to be killed at dawn of the following day. So the elderly of the village managed to get to the king and make a request. Please, anything, but please don't kill all of us. And the king said, with a certain sarcasm, if tomorrow, by dawn, you bring me something which every time I'm in a difficult spot it will help me to feel good, I can save your lives. A very powerful and rich king compared to a poor small village. So the elderly spoke the whole night and came to him with a small pillow and a ring on top the following morning. And the king says, "Do you think a small golden ring would make me happy when I'm in a very difficult moment and would make me feel better and not suffer in front of difficulties?" And the elderly said, "The gift isn't the gift, is what is written on it." He reads, "It will pass." Wears the ring and reads, "It will pass." And said, "You're right," and saved their lives. So, when we are in a difficult moment, we need to find a safe inner space and wait for the storm to be over. The problem during the storm are the reactions which we have. So in the second phase, which gets to the third one, is to learn to be still until the storm is over. Not reacting physically, verbally, and mentally. And sooner or later, the storm will be gone. Then, we can apply the other level, which is an advanced one, of generating the antidote. Briefly, our mind has a special feature. One, we're made out of habits. Two, what we imagine is like living it physically. When we are facing a situation, we react based on the memory of the past. As we said before, we are conditioned by the past. What we live in imagination is an experience which builds the past. So, one of the techniques to meditate on patience, also because it's impossible to practice patience without an object of anger. I can't say I'm patient, I'm so well, but there is no difficult situation. The monk was doing the retreat, went to one of his masters and said, and the monk said to the guru, "I'm practicing, meditating patience," and then the guru just slapped him, spit on him, and the monk reacted, got anger. The master steps back and said, "Remember, without an object of anger, you cannot practice patience. Patience is the ability to not reacting in an aggressive way in front of the object of anger. So how do I practice patience in a protected environment? In visualization, I imagine. Passages are the following. Sit down, breathing in and out, observing the breath, bring awareness at the present moment. After, when we have generated presence, we go to the next step, which is the analytical meditation on patience. We imagine to be with another person who we need to convince on why anger hurts. And it doesn't matter whatever happens, this is not a real reason to get angry. We can even write it down in bullet points. Okay, anger destroys relationships, generates negative energy, destroys health. We take all the bullet points, which are the negative points, and we go over and over again to convince the other person why anger hurts. It's a conceptual process. When we get to this, we leave this conclusion aside for a while, we breathe again, and we imagine an object of anger. We all have one. someone who is threatening us, someone who is behaving in a way we don't like. Sometimes we just need to think of the person and anger is generated. So we think of an object of anger. We are facing it and we let that anger arise. We need to feel it in our belly, in our chest, arising, growing. When we see that it's starting to grow, at that point we use that logical process and we put it against the feeling. This doesn't work, so we see the anger, we wait for it to go, and then we try to develop the opposite attitude, neutrality. Then we can start to see the suffering in the other person. We can even generate compassion and the antidote. We can meditate on interdependence and so on. But first of all, we welcome and let it go without reacting. We are in a protected environment doing this. But even there, because we are alone, breathing, meditating, if we do this exercise properly, we will just end up the exercise angry, a bit angry. It means it's well done. When it's well done, we will end up not angry, but at the same time we will feel we have lived that experience. More and more it will become an example, something we can refer to when we will actually face the situation in real life. So we can do it with compassion, with envy, with jealousy. There are many feelings we can face with these exercises, but today we spoke about anger. From my perspective, it's okay to use strength to oppose to something which generates suffering. Have you seen in some representations in Tibetan Buddhism, there are brothful images like Yamantaka, Vajrapani, they have weapons and so on. One of the meanings is to take the destructive force of aversion and direct it towards the real causes of suffering, which are selfishness and ignorance. So it becomes a huge strength which needs to be directed. But in the daily practice, first of all, we need to be aware, to become aware, observe and wish to be a calmer person, not to react in the same way. The more we wish and we desire how we want to be, the more, step by step, we can achieve it. We can develop it. The more we justify a certain behavior, the more we strengthen, we energize that kind of behavior. Good news is that it's completely possible to get less angry. It's possible to live the world in a more harmonious way, with more joy, with less conflict, less aggressiveness, less violence. Remember that our anger is a habit. And it depends on us if we want to get out of this. It's absolutely possible. Without entering in dynamics of willing to impose on ourselves to be already there, to have achieved the result. From the point I understand that is not good, not healthy, to get angry, to the point where when I don't get angry, it takes time. So let's not impose who I should be. It will happen because you will get angry, because you're used to get angry, even if you're already aware that it's not good. Sometimes people say you're Buddhist and you shouldn't get angry. The answer I would give is I get angry because I'm a Buddhist. If I were a Buddha, I wouldn't need to be a Buddhist. Being a Buddhist means I'm in the path. It doesn't mean I'm already arrived. If we were all Buddhas, Buddhism wouldn't be necessary. Buddhism is necessary because we're not in a good spot. Otherwise, we wouldn't need this method to achieve well-being. Is it clear? But don't use this as a justification. Lama said, I get angry because I'm a Buddhist, so I can get angry. The fact is, let's not impose ourselves the idealized image of what I should be already. I need to welcome whatever I am at the moment, and I need to direct myself towards what I want to become. I welcome the other for what he or she is, and I interact with the other person so that we can achieve a better relation. I don't want to get angry. I want to have the ability to react in a balanced way without entering into a passive behavior. So where I react, but I don't lose control of myself. I don't have an aggressive attitude. Will I do it straight away? No, but this is my objective, my high objective, not having anger. The expectation, low expectation of not imposing to have achieved that point, and the constant effort of generating awareness and so on. And it's completely possible. It's a matter of wanting it or not. And from that aspect, once it's done with anger, then we will do it with jealousy and so on. To conclude, someone would say, Lama, the more I go on, the most difficult it becomes. It's true. Because our spiritual path is like an X. At the beginning, the mental poisons are bigger, they are grosser, and the antidotes are weaker. With a smaller antidote, I can face the bigger one, the bigger poison. The subtler the mental poisons become, the bigger antidote I will need. When there's something stuck on the floor, it's easy to remove it, but when there's a spot, then you'll have to rub it to take it away. So at the beginning of the path is easier because we need to face more superficial levels. The deeper we go, the longer and more profound process, the more profound the processes become, because we need to work on a deeper level. Good news is never too late and never too early. With small actions, even just awareness, we can have huge changes. I've seen this on many people's life and on my life specifically. So thank you very much. We will do our dedications.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chokchur ge padan losan tembe drume sasumgi drove munsel takto ne gyur chi kewa kunto yanda lama dang dralme cheki pela longche chi sadan lamge yenten rapzo ne Dorje changi kopa nyur tobu sho nimo dele tsindele nime kunyan delek shi ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lob kuncho sumki ngodrubutsol kuncho sumki trashi sho.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Rinpoche ma ke Panama ke gyurechi ke pa nyambra me pa yang kongne konto pelwar shun. Possa.
May the precious, peaceful mind which hasn't birth, arise and grow. May the one already born, be born and grow even more.
Grazie a tutti.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. I invite those who are staying for the afternoon. Today we have a puja with the monks. But also I invite you to have a brief stroll in the forest. One of the holy parts of the center is also nature, and enjoying this space is also very important for all.